The Lord of the Rings Online, an MMORPG released back in 2007, set in the iconic land of Middle-earth, had quite the glowing reception on release, but due to the then roaming Goliath that is World of Warcraft, took a back seat, evidently falling short. A staggering 15 years later, the servers are still up and populated, with many still diving into its world. And today we do just that, to see what the game has to offer players today, and what may have led to it still being standing strong so many years after release. My name's Mitch Mannix, and this is The Lord of the Rings Online in 2022. As with all beginnings, we'll need a hero for our story, and the Lord of the Rings Online character creator is the first indication into the game's age, with quite a bare-bones selection on customization, but with a quite cool introduction available for each race.
Hobbits are a simple folk, favouring food and good cheer above all else. But deep within even the meekest hobbit
is a psychopath. Mainstays are of course here, such as all of the dwarf face options being only variations of which epic dwarf knows is best, and the hobbits of course having the patented pants-crapping face option to remind everyone just how creepy Elijah Wood can look. With our hobbit hero Drutmund ready for adventure, we begin in the rolling hills of the Shire, with our mate Bounder Boffin here providing us with some starter weapons and putting us through our paces for our adventure ahead, not before the famous lads themselves showing up looking for food and groupies. But something is afoot tonight, and with screeches raining out in the distance, the boys bugger off over a hill to hide from what approaches. Well, this is all very dramatic. It's a good thing Drutman only has a 3-second memory. Drutmund and Bounder make their own escape from the hooded riders through the spider ghetto of the Shire, getting a chance to try out some of our skills and pressing on, only to be met by some of the hood riders' lackeys, who reveal their plan to raid the local towns in search of Frodo. And you get a hug. Really? No. It turns out we've been taken captive by the riders' men, but not for long as Strider himself shows up, sucker swiping the guards and freeing us from ourselves. But we are far from safe, as the rider and his minions, the Blackwolds, are still roaming the lands looking for Frodo and co. So Drutmund, along with Strider, make an escape back to the temporary safety of Archit to regroup, and giving us a chance to explore the game's first section of open world, and totally not to mess around abusing the game's lack of player collision.
Tell you where I saw the finest potato, at one of those poncy schmuncy get-togethers over in the city. No, I wasn't invited, I just went the wrong way thinking it was a post office.
After explaining to the town's captain, Bracklebrook, of the looming attack, we are tasked with convincing some of the main players in the land to prepare and aid for the coming danger. It's while covering the tasks in our quest, where both the combat as well as the open world gets a decent showcase. The environments feel very dense and believable for such a dated title, with landmarks as well as the world's trees and plants giving a lot of life and detail into exploring. It is revealed that the situation is more dire than it seems, with even Calder Cobb, a formerly loyal member of the captain's ranks, secretly working with the Blackwolds, and with it the plan to raid the town. Drutmund is asked to gather as much information as possible, and even stumbles on a Blackwald roadblock to the south, which I have to say is a rather ingenious way of wrapping the gated starter zone up into the narrative of the game. A narrative supported by the game's summarizing cutscenes to keep the player updated on the main storyline, which is a nice touch setting up the game's next zone, as well as the Nazgul's apparent hatred for IKEA furniture. With the traitor exposed, we venture out visiting some of the locals to prepare for the attack, grabbing some gear and upgrades on the way, and even getting to see some groups of players, including an unexpected tribute to Scooby-Doo. With a long day behind us, we put up our giant gross feet for some much-earned rest, and drift off into a vision of none other than Lady Galadriel, who warns us of unforeseen upcoming events, including the looming threat from the Angmar. Hello! As well as covering some well-known story beats from Frodo's journey. It has to be said that the storytelling both in the starter zones, as well as throughout my time with the game, is exceptional, and really feeds into that feeling of wanting to soldier on to experience what comes next.
The free peoples of Middle-earth will have need of you. You must not fail them.
Okay, I'll have to dock some immersion points for that one. Upon awaking, the dreaded attack on the town descends. Gallantly fighting, we are met with the traitorous Calder Cobb and his hooded entourage, who in all his bastardry murders Captain Bracklebrook, while Drutmund can do nothing but continue playing the world's most disturbing game of peekaboo. Snapping back into action just in time to deliver some mega pint-sized justice to the traitor. And you too can help deliver some justice to the mighty dictator that is the YouTube algorithm by dropping a like on the video and letting me know your thoughts down in the comments. You wouldn't believe how much that helps out small YouTubers like me. With the events of Archit behind us and the introduction to the game concluded, we are unleashed upon the full expanse of the world, beginning back in the Shire. With our newfound freedom, we set about gathering up as many quests as possible, working through the levels. The main story, like with most MMOs, in its early hours at least, jump a few levels every so often to encourage the player to set upon the land looking for other side quest opportunities, which is a format that works wonders providing the explorable areas feel good to be in, and Lord of the Rings Online does that incredibly well. The world design, day, night and weather cycles, as well as coming across identifiable locations from the books and movies, such as the Prancing Pony and the Shire's Firework Party, just adding to the lived-in feeling places. So beautiful. Making exploration feel adventurous and interesting. I was wandering through the Shire at night at one point and some random bloke called Big Tom appeared and tried to rob me of my Hobbit gold, leading for me to have to run away like a total wimp. When it comes to the game's combat, it, like a number of things, is very reminiscent of a game that had only released 3 years prior, World of Warcraft. A slower pace than more contemporary titles, with CCs and attacks to build and spend energy a factor. For the most part, the combat felt good considering its age, but did suffer from the game's unfortunate habit of dropping the odd bit of lag to turn encounters into more of a dice roll than a challenge. While travelling the land, mounts are available, but only permanently to those that spend some real money in the cash shop, or by signing up to VIP membership. A rented mount is provided to new players to give them 6 hours of experience, however, as well as being quite an effective tool, I'm sure, at pushing for that first cash up investment. Mounts of course are highly useful at getting around, and later in the game having combat skills to go with certain war steeds to charge into battle. Just don't do any strafing with them, as when done looks quite disturbing, but in hindsight I don't know what I was expecting, as this is a horse, not a crab. My time spent questing through the game's early zones didn't exactly exhibit a wide range of engaging tasks to get busy working through, mostly due to its age, with a fair amount of kill and collect quests. The map lends itself to location names like Breeland quite well, since the map looks like the sort of thing you'd only find in a theme park or on a postcard. Safe to say, a bit rubbish most of the time. The dramatic scenes were sometimes impacted by some janky moments, such as the NPC pathing, NPC's teleportation abilities, and even in fairness quite infrequent disconnects. Oh well shit, I lost connection. It's also clear, at least in the early experience, that not a lot has been done to innovate on the leveling journey alongside other MMOs over the years. And you know what the scariest thing about that is? As far as I see it, the Lord of the Rings Online is far better for it. Now this may be due to me being an older generation of MMO player, but slowly working my way through a zone, not having arrows and lit up paths leading me to my next objective, but instead just being able to venture off into the world and explore felt great. Seeing that the next story mission was level 18, so delving into the old forest on my own intuition and uncovering a whole set of stories within its dark and mysterious depths gave me a feeling that heavily reminded me of the experience playing games such as Guild Wars 2 or World of Warcraft shortly after release. Progressing further into the game's world and seeing new zones in its towns and cities felt like an exploration rather than simply going through the motions on a treadmill. Well, what's going on here? Everyone looks like they're having a good time? Oh. There's always one knob at a party. Having an overarching story with breaks to do your own adventuring is a preference for me, over some games that opt to have chapters of smaller contained stories over a few hours, but that may not be the case for some, who get more out of the faster pace of the latter. It felt oddly relaxing just questing around the game, also heavily assisted by its great soundtrack. The influence of World of Warcraft can be seen and felt not only in its questing format, but in elements such as its tooltips looking directly lifted from the game. So anyone who's played a game like WoW before will feel somewhat at home with Lord of the Rings Online, with even most of the slash commands working to do the same emotes. That's your dance? You call yourself a hobbit? Other touches such as the pending loot system that pulls all the drop loot from a set of mobs for distributing all at once, as well as the game's scalable instances, add some quality of life to its experience, with some instances featuring epic battles and locations straight from the books and movies. It's worth saying that some of the game's stronger elements will most likely only appeal to those that buy into the slower, classic-orientated style of MMOs of the past, and therefore may lead to feeling quite directionless, repetitive, and potentially boring to some others. With the game being free to play, there are of course some hindrances for being steadfast on spending any real cash, such as the previously mentioned mount system, and again I'm sure this will be something likely to turn away some from the game also. Lord of the Rings Online does show its age with its animation and models, and sometimes janky moments, as well as its core experience, but I honestly wasn't expecting to have this much fun with the game, reliving an experience I thought would remain in the past. Some truly great zone design goes a long way to turn attention away from the dated visuals. And for those that, for example, play classic WoW over the more recent years, or even those that are looking for something they can sit back, chill, and play through at their own pace, it has to be said that Lord of the Rings Online really surprised me with how well it's retained an experience I thought died out many years ago. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm keen to get your thoughts down in the comments. Please drop a video a like if you enjoyed it, and hit that subscribe button for oh so much more. I'll see you guys in the next video.